How are you?
I'm doing great.
All right, we're here in Teaneck, New Jersey. We just did a town hall meeting. You told the people about the Fair School Funding Plan, right? What is it?
Well, the Fair School Funding Plan is going to bring some transparency, simplicity, and easy-to-administer system to the state of New Jersey. Basically, when we collect the income tax progressively, where the top 1% pays 40% of all taxes and the bottom third pays zero, when we collect that money, I'm proposing that that money then be divided equally for each student. That'll be about $7,500 per student, regardless of where that student lives.
I want you to elaborate a little more on the wealth redistribution that's going on in education funding. We have a progressive income tax, right?
Yes, we have a progressive income tax, so those who make more pay a lot more, and the bottom third pays zero. And all that money goes down to Trenton as the income tax fund. That money's then divided for school aid. And you would think a fair distribution would be every student gets the same amount of money after you collect it progressively, but it's not. The money actually is sent out at ratios of 50 to 1, 75 to 1, where it's going to the Abbott districts, and the suburban and rural towns are getting virtually nothing to run their schools.
So each student is not treated equally under current law?
Yeah, in spite of the fact that the School Funding Reform Act is, quote, the money follows the child, that's absolutely not true. We have a situation that we showed tonight where the folks in Teaneck are getting a little over $1,000 per student, and the folks in Asbury Park are getting $25,000 per student. Now, how is that fair? Particularly since every resident of Teaneck sends in 4 times as much in income tax as every resident from Asbury Park. So you have progressivity going into the system, and you have progressivity coming out of the system. And it's even worse coming out.
Doesn't the Constitution already require that school funding be done equally for each student?
Absolutely. Article 8, Section 4, Paragraph 2 says that the money for the school fund shall be shall be annually appropriated for the equal benefit of all the residents of the state. So equal benefit to me means everybody's treated equally. Not that you send $25,000 to students in one town and less than $1,000 to students in another town.
Why isn't each student treated equally?
The entire system's been hijacked by the New Jersey Supreme Court. And the New Jersey Supreme Court, unfortunately, has an agenda, and they're involved in wealth redistribution. But that's to the detriment of students that live in most of our districts. And as I showed, if every student received the same amount of money, that would be a benefit for about 85% of the districts in the state of New Jersey.
When you say 85% of the districts would benefit, this doesn't sound like it's a Republican issue or a Democratic issue. It sounds like everybody could benefit except for the tiny little Abbott districts.
Absolutely. Right now you have 20% of the kids are getting 60% of the money under my plan. Every student would get the same amount of money. And when you look here, we happen to be in Bergen County. You have Loretta Weinberg, Robert Gordon, and Paul Sarlo are Democrats. Virtually every one of their towns would get significantly more money under the Fair School Funding Plan. And as you go around the state and you look at some of the top Democrat legislators, their towns would get tens of millions of dollars more. And you got to wonder why they wouldn't support this.
Are any of these Democratic legislators on record regarding your plan?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I proposed it in the Budget Committee, and all the Democrats voted it down. And then I proposed it on the floor of the Senate, and all the Democrats voted it down. So, yes, they have voted twice, and they oppose my plan.
Did they offer you any reasons, privately or publicly?
Usually nothing publicly, other than trying to get me to stop talking about it, because if the people find out the real situation, they're going to start asking their own legislators, why aren't you supporting this? They generally say, oh, well, I'd love to do something like that or improve it, but the Supreme Court is ordering us to go this direction. And I think that's part of the problem. The Supreme Court has no authority to tell the legislature how to spend money on our schools.
So we have a progressive income tax that disproportionately takes more money from wealthier suburbs and transfers it to poorer districts in the inner city. And who's getting that money? The Democratic machine, the unions? Who's getting it?
Yeah, I think there's urban power brokers that control these schools and control the boards of education. And it's an urban jobs program for the politically connected. And the horror stories are legion. Just about all these districts have very high budgets, very poor performance. It's really about the political elite that's running those towns, taking control of billions of dollars. And it's really not about the kids. They actually use the kids to perpetuate their political system.
You mentioned that the Supreme Court has hijacked this system. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yes, well, the Supreme Court, we just got Abbott 21. So 21 times the Supreme Court has said, legislature and governor, you got it wrong. We're going to tell you how to do it. And this is not the role of the court. So for the last 30 years, the Supreme Court of New Jersey has taken over how we fund our schools. And we all wait here with bated breath waiting for their next decision. And that's just unconstitutional. The Constitution gives the power to the legislature, and the legislature should be making these decisions.
You gave what I think was an incredible statistic during your presentation tonight. You said that education spending as directed by the Supreme Court is over $10 billion a year in New Jersey, and the entire budget's only $30 billion. Did I hear that right?
Yes, and that's just the funding that comes from the state of New Jersey. When you factor in local expenditures as well, it's much more than that. But yes, we pass a budget of about $30 billion, and over $10 billion of that is just school funding that's directed to the different school districts around the state.
So over 1/3 of the money that's spent in this state is directed, the spending is directed by the Supreme Court, not by the legislature?
Yes, that's absolutely correct.
That's unbelievable.
Well, that's why there's so many problems in New Jersey, and we take an oath of office as an elected official to uphold the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the state of New Jersey. And I do not believe the Constitution is being followed when we allow the Supreme Court to control the votes of elected officials and to tell elected officials, you have to re-vote, you voted wrong, you have to re-vote to spend more money and send it to the Abbott districts.
You've taken the lead on this issue by introducing a constitutional amendment in the legislature. What are your plans for the fall legislative elections? Are you going to make this the issue for this election? Are you going to try and get a mandate for the vote from the voters to change things?
Yeah, I am doing these town hall meetings around the state, and it's my goal to continue the drumbeat and to get more legislators to sign on to my legislation. Right now we have 5 senators in the Senate, and it's my goal to get more. We have many assembly members that have signed on to the assembly version of my proposal, and I believe that if the issue of fair school funding is the primary issue in this fall campaign, that we will have reform and we will have change.
What about making something like a contract with America, but for New Jersey, and make this the one issue that you're going to promise voters, you vote for us, we're going to implement this reform, and explain whether that's going to change anything for the state?
Absolutely. You know, you win elections by having clear differences between you and the opposition. I've been making this pitch to the governor, the governor's top assistants, and legislative leadership on both sides of the aisle. And I believe that if the election here in 2011 for the legislature is on this issue, and this is the primary issue, I believe that it will be adopted in the state of New Jersey. And the party that supports this as their central platform, and I'm a Republican, I'm hoping the Republican Party takes this as its central issue, I think we will win the majority in New Jersey.
Are you going to get upstart candidates that are challenging Democratic incumbents to sign a pledge, even though they're not yet legislators?
Well, that's certainly an idea. I haven't thought of that, but certainly tonight we had some candidates that are challenging incumbents, and they were very enthusiastic, and they are going to talk about this issue during their campaigns.
If you were able to speak to all these upstart challengers who are challenging Democratic incumbents in non-Abbott districts, can you give me a soundbite or a sentence or two that they can take to their voters and their constituents as to why they should support your plan, why they should vote for these upstart candidates that are Republicans?
Yes, they can tell the voters, I have a plan to cut your property taxes by 1/3. And that's what will happen under the Fair School Funding Plan in most of these towns. And they should have debates as often as possible in all the towns of their district and let the Democrat incumbent support the status quo where their town gets peanuts from the state of New Jersey to run their schools. And let them be opposed to a plan that will bring tens of millions of dollars to their towns. And it's really a no-brainer. We have a clear difference on the issues between a challenger and an incumbent, and most of the people, after they look at it, they say, hey, this makes a lot of sense. I'm on board, and that's the opportunity for the challenger to win.
Thank you.
Who the hell do you think you are? Move it a little bit to the right.